Hello and welcome to another episode of the 21st Century Work-Life podcast, where we talk about how the world of work and our attitudes to work are changing. And I'm your host, Pilar Ortiz, and I'm delighted because I have two guests on today and I haven't met them before. And this is one of the joys of this show, is that I get to talk to people from all over the world who I've never met before and find out what they're doing work-wise. And as we've been doing recently, I'm going to ask my guests to just introduce themselves so that you can hear their names directly from their mouths. So...
Hi, I'm Nicolina Jennings.
And I'm Justin Genak.
Fabulous. Thank you very much to both of you, Nicolina and Justin. I'm so delighted to meet you. And Justin is the co-founder and CEO of Working Not Working. And Nicolina, they work together. She's the VP and Managing Director. I'd love you to introduce the listeners to Working Not Working.
Working Not Working is a curated community of the best creatives in the world. And it's not hyperbole. We have a lot of really amazing talent that's doing Super Bowl commercials, logos, kind of runs the gamut from across the creative industry, from advertising, design, production, and tech. It's an online platform where it's free for creatives to join and be a part of the community. And then we have kind of the most innovative brands in the world pay a monthly or yearly membership fee to access the community and can hire as many people as they want. So we don't take commissions or any of that. We're just trying to introduce people and allow them to make amazing work.
How do you make sure that these are the most amazing people on the platform?
It helps to go back to the origin story a little bit.
Great.
So I spent my career 10 years or more than 10 years as a creative director and art director in advertising. So I was doing the Super Bowl commercials and websites and worked on various projects at agencies across the US. I was full-time for 5 years and I went freelance, and finding freelance work was super inefficient. I would call and email every single person I knew in the industry, which was not a lot because I had only had a couple jobs. Of course, no one would need to hire me right away. I'd sit around for a couple of weeks, get a gig, and then without fail, I'd get like 5 offers that week for jobs I couldn't take. And so I put a thing on my portfolio site a little bit as a joke because I'm a little bit of a smart ass. I called it the Justin Genak Freelance Status Apparatus. And it was just a giant blinking neon sign animated GIF that said if I was working, available, or available soon. And then I had an overutilization of technology to follow my freelance availability. So I had a Facebook group, a Twitter feed, a text alert, an iPhone app, and a mailing list.
Okay.
And it was like, whatever works best for you, you can find it. And I ended up with 40 recruiters from different advertising agencies following me. And anytime I'd flip my status to available, I'd get 2 or 3 job offers within a day. And it got to the point where I was like, I can't take all of these. So I would just email them to my friends. And it got to the point where the recruiters are looking and saying like, hey, Justin, I see by your cute little sign that you're working, or any of your friends available. And I was like, oh, wow, I'm a rep. How did that happen? And so my buddy, Adam Tompkins, and I realized that if that kind of Motel vacancy sign model could work for me, it probably could work for everybody. So in 2012, we launched the site with 300 of the best freelancers we knew. And it was the people working at the top agencies winning all of the awards. And we gave them all a couple invites and said, invite the best people that you know, and slowly grew the network from there. We got it to about 2,500 creatives mostly around the US. But then we had a queue of 8,000 people waiting to get in, which was great to make it make it really exclusive. But there were so many great people we wanted to let in, and it just wasn't possible with 1 or 2 people vetting them. So we've opened it up now to anyone can make a profile. But we have a membership board of industry professionals that vet all of the people that are coming in and give them like a vetted member badge.
Nice. Very good. I love that story.
Thank you. Solving my problem.
Yes. And also using your network in a different way as well, rather than actually looking for work, actually providing your clients and keeping those relationships warm as well.
Well, it was shocking because people were like, wow, that's so cool. And I'm like, what? They're like, you share your contacts. And I'm like, of course I share my contacts. Like, I want to help my friends get work. There's plenty of work to go around. And I'm not worried that if I introduce them to someone great, that they're never going to call me again. So the opposite happened. I became the first person they came to. And then they knew I would distribute it through all my friends. So I ended up helping a lot of people that way and help myself.
Yeah, that's really great. And Nicolina, when did you join, and how did you end up here today?
I still ask myself that question every day. How did I end up here? No, I actually just celebrated 2 years a few weeks ago. So I can't believe it's been 2 years with the company. But yeah, I came on about 2 years ago after Working Not Working was acquired, and I had sort of come straight from the advertising industry. I basically did over 15 years tour of service, I like to call it, with some of the world's biggest global ad agencies. Most recently had come from RGA. And in my time there, I was always sort of on the business and strategy side of things. So, I'd already had a lot of experience sort of wrangling creatives for a living, especially some of the world's greatest creative talent. So when I had met with Justin and Adam and heard what their vision was for the future, I was immediately interested. And I thought, I need to come in here and join this team and really be a part of what they're looking to do in the future. So a lot of what I had done when I joined the company was help to solidify all of these great creative ideas and turn it into a much more ambitious mission, which we now talk about is, we're on a mission to build the future of creative opportunity. And at the end of the day, that's what Working Not Working is really about.
So what does your team look like, your company? Who is behind this operation?
We're a very small, nimble team. I think we're about eight of us right now.
Nice.
So small and scrappy, which is great. We were acquired a couple of years ago by Fiverr. But the great thing is they've really let us do our thing and give us the support where we need on all the back end stuff. But we've kind of just been running on our own, which is great. And so our team, we have some folks, a couple developers and talent folks and people in kind of operations and really helping us move this forward. But it's small yet mighty.
Nice. I always ask people, are you located in the same office together? Are you distributed?
Yeah, totally distributed. Yeah.
We're a fully distributed team. And I think a lot of the way our team runs is like a reflection of our approach to talent and how we think about team collaboration in the community, because we have really been able to find people and people with incredible potential, even if they didn't have this exact experience before. And we've been able to bring them in and get them on board with our mission as a company. And it's been truly successful for us as really a small team that works well together and has the passion to see us grow.
And how did it work with Fiverr then? You've started to answer the question already, just in saying that pretty much you're being able to operate autonomously. Did that shift anything in how it must have changed something being acquired? What changed?
Having support and having people and experts to bounce ideas off of. I think a lot of things in the past, we were kind of succeeding in spite of ourselves. Nicolina came on, and it was after a decade of us being run by two art directors. And so a company run by creative people sure has a lot of benefits, but then also there's a lot of organization that could be lovingly added, which thankfully Nicolina has. But also with the Fiverr acquisition, we were able to just really get that support from their expertise and scaling and in a lot of different elements that we just didn't have the resources for. So it's just been kind of the support underneath and the safety net to be able to make sure that we can keep doing what we're doing.
So what is the experience then of a creative that is working with you? What's their experience like being part of that community?
Well, when they initially come, they make a profile where they put their current availability, whether they're working available or available soon. They fill out kind of resume information, portfolio, industry experience, all of that stuff that's completely searchable. Then connect with other members of the community. They can vouch for people that they know and have worked with and know can deliver. We encourage people just to become a part of the community. So it's we have a lot of events. One of our things that I hosted and started a few years ago is Talking Not Talking. We do a monthly support group for creative professionals to talk about the struggles of doing this thing that we do. So it's really about bringing people together and having that support, because especially with creative folks, we're typically the freaks and geeks and weirdos that chose the path less traveled. And it's not really the careers that were encouraged in school and by our families. And so there's a lot there where we feel like there's a lot of nurturing and support that needs to happen to be able to do this and be able to do it successfully.
And when you're saying creatives, because the creative industries are so huge, do you really mean like from film to corporate to advertising?
It's since we started with advertising, it's mainly roles there, but then the tangential production roles. So we have designers and animators and developers, marketers. So it's kind of branched out from there. We haven't gotten into like actors or theater or even like film and television yet, but it's kind of really focused on marketing and then production around that.
And I suppose people will have, what I'm seeing, of course, a lot is some kind of portfolio career as well, that you're in that industry, and then within the industry, people are doing different things as well. So it's really nice to be in that community for that. Yeah. The companies then who come to the platform, who come to to Working Not Working, to look for creatives, do they have a particular way of looking at who they work with? Do they have particular cultures? Can you see anything that's common, or actually it's super diverse?
Yeah, I think we've seen, especially over the past 18 months, a pretty big shift in terms of going from just traditional advertising agencies to a lot more in-house agencies at big brands and big companies, as well as smaller design shops and smaller startups who the people coming in as our customers now aren't traditional recruiters or talent people. They're a CEO or a CCO looking to staff maybe the first hire of their creative team in hopes of scaling that to be bigger. And so a lot of it is driven the way that we've been thinking about how we help these customers and our community start to rethink how they put themselves on display and talk about themselves. It's gone from really being sort of a one-dimensional expert in an area and being able to show how you can upskill, how you have multiple skills, how you can sort of wear many hats within an organization. Because as the industry is trying to get more efficient with the amount of people they're bringing on, it's really sort of driven the creative community to think about themselves as not just an expert in one area, but how they continue to evolve their skills.
And that's something it's taken a while, but I think this has also got to do with being more interested as well in the person, not just the skills they bring. Exactly. And also the people, like you say, I love that you're saying that people are feeling like they can do this a bit more, and that having the potential to grow is as important as having grown already and being an expert.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was just going to say a lot of what we talked about was one of our goals was trying to help our customers and help recruiters or help the leadership be able to evaluate creatives and really all employees based on that potential and not just experience alone. And I think that's a big part of what we're also trying to do with Working Not Working and some of our new products that we're also launching.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. And maybe this overlaps then into the new product, because this thing of how do we assess somebody's potential? And how do we get actually into the mindset that is something that we're also looking for? I mean, it's a huge question, but how do we do that? Especially someone how do we start to look at what things? Yeah, what might the process of understanding whether someone has potential look like?
I think a lot of it comes from just gauging people's curiosity level. And I've been in this business 20 years plus now, in the creative industry, and we keep hearing, and there's these, especially with AI coming up, I hear a lot of folks that are, of my age and older going like, oh, I don't know, and complaining about the youth, and I'm always just like, what are you doing? Like, we got into this business because we're curious people, and we're always following that curiosity, and we're constantly adapting. I remember when I came into my first job, and I was like, saw the old guy in the corner office, and like, what does he even work on? I'm like, I don't want to become that person. It's like, no, you have to stay curious, young, relevant. And it's not even just like, I know young people who have like really old interests too and have no interest in tech. My wife is like hates technology, and it's like she's 30, early 30s. So age isn't even a thing. It's a bit of a mindset. And so it's like you have to keep reinventing yourself. You have to stay curious about all the new things that are coming out and not complain that you don't get TikTok. It's like, no, figure out TikTok. I like to say you have to keep Madonna-ing your career. It's like keep figuring it out over and over and over again and reinventing yourself, because that's how you stay relevant and you keep yourself unignorable. So I think if you can gauge people's curiosity levels, people's enthusiasm, people's interest in learning and adapting, The adaptability is probably the most important thing, especially as so many new things and new roles and new disciplines are coming. Who's willing to go and figure out what's next?
And I think the point you make about age as well is really important to remember as well, is that curiosity in technology does not necessarily go with age. No. Then you can have both poles at any kind of age. So that's really good and very important.
One of our members, Mark Mall, did a campaign, was like creativity knows no age. And it was about like Julia Child getting her show in her late 50s, and Colonel Sanders starting Kentucky Fried Chicken in his 60s. And so it's like, yeah, like people do amazing things. It's like I think a lot of times there's this mindset, especially in the creative world, that like you have the shelf life of like an NFL running back. And it's like, well, cool. Once you hit 40, it's pretty much your days are numbered. And it doesn't need to be that way. And I think people who don't resign to that narrative are the ones that are succeeding now.
And do you see that in the kind of artists that are in working, not working? Is there quite a nice range of ages, or is one age more prominent than another?
I think we're seeing across the board. Like we started, with a lot of folks that were of my age in the early days, but we're getting a lot of younger folks coming in now. And it's interesting, and it's a little bit of a re-education too for our hiring community, because we noticed that like everyone's doing searches for talent that is 3 to 9 years of experience. And we're like, well, but why is that? Is that because you don't think you can afford more experience, or is it because some other factor? And most of the time they're like, oh, we don't think we can afford that. And it's like, well, don't rule people out. Like, present them with an opportunity and let them say no if they don't think it's right for them. But so we're seeing people across the gamut, and then it's really just making sure that everyone's getting opportunity, making sure young people are getting discovered or getting into jobs and getting mentorship, which has kind of been a bit of an issue the past few years. Like we talk about like this lost generation since 2020 who haven't been on site, haven't gotten that mentorship, but now everybody wants to hire 3 years of experience, but they don't have the same level of experience as they did prior to COVID.
A lot of that has just been a challenge for these organizations who are seeking out, these creatives or really just employees in general with all of this potential. So I feel like we've been able to get people to see, through the use of our products, how to recognize that potential. But where we saw the bigger challenge was once they get hired and they're within an organization, that's where they potentially could become stagnant, especially in a remote working world, not having the mentorship, not having, sort of you're only as good as your last greatest hit. And so people were utilizing our profiles and utilizing portfolios to be able to bring people in. And then that's where things had stopped. And so this is a lot of what had drove us to basically launch our new product, which is called Internal, spelled NTRNL, no vowels.
Okay.
But really, it was born out of this idea that, a company really has to continue to see the whole person, make people feel like they have a sense of belonging, let them bring them whole selves to the table. And that's going to continue that cycle of having people work up to their potential and keeping them happy, keeping them retained after the hiring process.
And that's what gets us really excited these days too, is like one example is like on Internal, we have people's passions and interests on their profile. So we have these human-centered profiles where they can really talk about what are the things that they geek out about. Because like if I get to work on the thing that I geek out about, if someone gives me a Boston Celtics brief, I'm going to go nuts because I'm like super passionate about it. And we have so much anecdotal stories of like Nicolino was at RGA and they pitched Amex. And she had 8 years of experience on American Express but nobody dared mention like, hey, we're pitching this and missed opportunity there. Like my co-founder, Adam, he was at an agency back in his agency days and they were pitching a car account and he can literally name a model and a year of a car based on the door handle. And never once did they go like, hey, is anybody like super car nerds here? And it really would have helped benefit the work. So if you can find out what people are into, that they're crazy Swifties or anything else, and not just the creative department, like it could be the accountants, it could be maintenance.
Right.
Like where are you tapping into the full knowledge base and the full potential and skills of your workforce?
What you've done is you've gone from a place where freelancers are saying what they are passionate about, who are saying, these are my skills, etc. And you've recognized that actually that is happening more in the external, in the freelance world, in communities outside of organizations than within organizations. And now with internal, you're coming in and saying, hey, why not have that feel as well, where actually people are happy to express their interest? And that's something that many organizations, especially those new to remote work, are concerned about, is the loss of that connection and the loss of information, information isolation as well.
For
that
sure.
loss of information that, because they're not having as many in-person encounters and they haven't got anything to replace those, they're being lost. So that's really interesting. So what does it look like then? Is it a place where everyone has a profile that goes beyond their role and the work they're doing then? Okay. And does everyone have access to those profiles? Nicolina, how does it work?
I noticed that we're nodding, but we're on a podcast.
Listeners, they're nodding. They can hear it. The vibes are going through the microphone. Excellent.
Verbal note, we're nodding. Yeah, so it was important to us in the way that we had built this profile that two things remained consistent. One, that everybody had access to create one. I always joke that during my time in advertising, I was an account person, and so we never get sort of counted in with the title of being a creative person. But I like to think that our skills and our interest and the things that we bring to the table are just as important, than the people who were creating the concept. So for us, it was important that everybody had a profile that could really showcase who they were. And a lot of the way that we had done this was, it was funny. It was just really came from a lot of the way that we had built our own relationships with each other at Working Not Working as a remote workforce through things like questions. What's something that you would have told your younger self today if you could? What would you be doing in a zombie apocalypse? It sort of runs the gamut of things you're able to showcase on your profile, something that's funny or quirky about you, to things that are serious and have to do with your career. For instance, with our launch partner, they made sure everybody made it mandatory for everyone to answer the question, I would like the opportunity to. So if you come in as somebody's manager, you're really able to see, wow, this person wants more opportunities to do public speaking. This is something that I could acknowledge and help them work on. That's really going to make the difference of showing them that I care and that they're being seen. So those types of things were important to us, to be able to have something in there that wasn't just related to your career and what you were doing, but had personal interest, and everybody got to put that in there.
I think a big thing too is like with Working Not Working, it's very visual based and like really well designed. And, we're kind of snobby art directors ourselves and designers. So we know that's our audience and we have a really high bar. But with internal, we're like, hey, this is for more than just creative people, but it's a really beautiful visual profile. But then we've even noticed like some people, even if they don't upload projects, it still looks great and you get such a sense of who people are. Like we were looking at some profiles and it's like they maybe spent 5 minutes filling out saying like a few things that they nerd out about. They answered a couple prompts of what they'd love the opportunity to, and maybe what they do in a zombie apocalypse. And then we also have on there like a 3-word headline that you put for yourself and hidden talents. And even just by looking at those few things that they maybe put in 5 minutes, you're just like, I get a really great sense of who this person is and what they're all about. We only have 8 people on our team and we did our own version of internal. And our freelance producer, Caitlin, is a sound bath instructor, I found out. And I go and look and I'm like, I've been looking up sound bath bowls. I want to get one of those. And so we hopped on a Zoom and like had a nerdy conversation about sound bath bowls. And like, I never would have known that. Or like another one of our teammates, was a professional bodybuilder. Had no idea. And we've been working with her for 2 years. And so there's just like, even within a small org like that, there's just little things where you're just like, well, such a better sense of understanding of each other and ways to connect with each other that just wouldn't have existed before.
There's the understanding of the whole person. There's also, and I think you could also market this as a get rid of your meetings platform as well, because the other thing you're doing is giving people visibility. I mean, you were talking about, Nicolina, about this, you're giving visibility to people who don't usually have their work doesn't have visibility in the organization. And the reason why I'm just tying it back to meetings is one of the problems of why there's so many meetings. People want to be seen and don't want to miss out on opportunities. But you're almost flipping this and saying, rather than making sure that you're visible so that we all know that your opportunities are there, we're giving you a space to be visible that we can look at. I mean, the culture needs to be ready in an organization for this, which is
absolutely
wonderful that you're saying you have a question, what opportunities are you looking for? Immediately the person goes, oh, I can say what opportunity, and then the opportunities have to be there.
Well, you're kind of like segued perfectly into like the second feature in addition to the profiles is the opportunity section. And we made it really simple. Like it's just a very simple Mad Lib that like blank is seeking blank in blank, starting blank. And so what's great is our launch partner, Wyden & Kennedy, which is like one of the largest independent ad agencies in the world. And they are going to use it for, all employees can use it. So sure, it could be, hey, we have an Olympics brief and who would be interested in that? Or we're looking for someone to do a voiceover in the New York office, or we've got a executive producer role in London, or we've got a hiking club starting in Portland and who wants to join. And people just click, I'm interested. And that's it. And so it's just a way for people to be able to put those things out there and create this sense of organization, belonging, and transparency is a really big part of this too. When we talk about from an equity perspective, a lot of times, and I'm sure this happens in other organizations besides creative companies, like the darlings in the A team always get the assignments. And so it's the same people over and over, which have a proven track record over and over again, get these opportunities. But if you can go and put them out there, and someone who's in maybe a remote in another office can go and raise their hand and say, yeah, this is the thing I'm really into. That's such a huge advantage. And it shows that you care about your people and you care about them being able to get access to things that maybe they wouldn't have gotten access before because they are either remote or they're not in the office or they're not the favorites that are getting everything.
That just goes to the heart of all the planning and deliberateness that needs to go into distributed workforces as well.
Yeah, and it's also like we're not trying to be project management software. I think a lot of people will be like, hey, we have this. And, we're calling it an employee retention platform. It's not, hey, this person's at 85% bandwidth and they're working on these projects and all that. Like, that's not here. We can plug into that stuff if companies want. But it's more about like, hey, here's your dream assignment. Let's put it out there and let the team member raise their hand and say, yeah, I would make time for that because I would love to work on that. That'd be career changing. So let them say that they want to, as opposed to like already ruling people out because you're looking at resourcing, bandwidth.
So employee retention. So Nicolina, am I right that you did a survey looking at what was going on within organizations? And what did you find out that I imagine fed into this in some way?
Yeah, it was really shocking in a good way. Well, I mean, for us, because it validated a lot of the things that we had instinctually felt when we had first started out and just doing more of the qualitative conversations to launch this product. So we launched this happiness survey with our community. It was for full-time employees because we really wanted to get a sense of people who weren't just freelancing, but were really within an organization. So we had over about 1,000 respondents. And one of the most shocking things that we found was that 73% of them, those people with a current job, were looking to leave their company within 6 months. And, these weren't people who had been there 10 years, 12 years. Majority of these people, were between 2 and 5 years with their current employer. So, we continued to dig deeper and basically found that there was a direct correlation between these happiness factors and retention. So the other most surprising thing was that salary was initially like a deciding factor that sort of got people into accepting their role. But the findings showed us that basically a company's culture is the thing that had the highest potential to retain employees for somewhere close to 9 months. And so this, what made up this idea of culture wasn't things like ping pong tables and happy hours. It was really those employee wellness factors, things like having flexibility in your schedule, where you get to work, the opportunity to be able to work on projects that align to your interest and just the company's values overall. So these these culture factors, we were able to prove that there was a direct correlation tied to retention in keeping people happy, which is ultimately why we wanted to call this our retention platform.
And there's also such a cost and business benefit to keeping people around too. Like you see, like when you hire someone, you onboard them, you kind of expect to spend about 30% more in that first year because they're not up to full capacity initially. And then all the time it takes for other people to take away from their jobs to go and train these people up. So if you're doing that and then you're losing people out the door 12 months later or less, it's super inefficient and super expensive. And so if we can go and figure out how to keep people around and keep them engaged and keep them producing great work that they're proud of, like it's going to be a huge benefit to the bottom line. And so you see so many companies cutting their employee wellness programs or cutting their DE&I programs. And it's like that stuff is essential. Like your talent is your only currency. You have to keep them happy, engaged, and if you do that, you're gonna find success.
Well, this is very timely. I mean, we are recording at the end of February of 2024 when there's a lot of return to the office happening because it is being seen as one way of solving the connection belonging issue. And actually what we've seen is that that might not be it. And of course, there's many different factors, but this is really, I mean, this is a reminder that keeping people is really about helping them grow in a way that they want to grow. And of course, as much as it fits with the organization. But this is for me, it's a very simple way of addressing that. It's simple, from the effort that it will take employees to be part of that. So I'm going to wrap up, but I do want to ask you if there's anything else that you want to say to our listeners, as well as where should we send them to find out more? Well, working, not working. And of course, internal, which is spelled NTRNL. I love it. Any last words, Nicolina?
I just want to say thank you so much for having us. And it's always a pleasure to be able to talk to other people that understand where we are in terms of how the industry is changing and how prioritizing your talent and making them feel like they belong is actually better for business.
Thank you. Justin.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is it's something I'm very passionate about. Like my own personal mission is to do whatever I can to help creative people feel less alone. And so working, not working is an extension of that. Internal is an extension of that. And to be able to have conversations like this, I think is really important. And even last week we had a conversation with a people person at an agency, and both Nicolina and I we were almost crying. Because we know there's people out there that care about their teams, their employees, their staff in major ways. And I think there just needs to be more of that. There needs to be more people that care. And I know there's people fighting the good fight within organizations, but if they can do stuff like this and a myriad of other things to show employees that they feel valued and that who they are and how they think and how they exist is important, it's going to be such a huge benefit to everyone. And so I'm excited about this, and thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to talk about it.
Well, great. Thank you very much. I'm sure our listeners will definitely, everything will resonate with them as well. I do want to thank Tommy for organizing this.
Thank you, Tommy.
Thank you, Tommy.
So, Tommy, do you want to say hello to the listeners, seeing as we're here?
I hope this part gets cut out, honestly. Yeah, seriously, thank you all for the fun conversation. It was a pleasure just to make the connection and to just make it happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A big thank you for listening to the 21st Century Work Life podcast. We know there are many other shows for you to choose from. Remember to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app, and you can check out the full show notes over at virtualnotdistant.com/podcasts. Talking of podcasts, we have another show you can listen to, Management Cafe, which you should also be able to find on all podcast apps. I have been Pilar Ortiz. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, enjoy.